The International Space Station was built to symbolize the establishment of relations between the Soviet Union and the United States of America following the Cold War's end. This one-of-a-kind scientific research center in Earth's orbit has evolved into a facility for solving problems in a wide range of fields, from medicine to the technology of creating new substances and materials. Furthermore, astronauts from various countries, regardless of their relationship on Earth, coexist on board. People are transported to the ISS by the Soyuz space shuttle. One day, biologist Kira and engineer Christian are sent to the station, which already has 4 cosmonauts. As Soyuz enters orbit, the Flight Control Center congratulates the pair on their impending docking, joking about the Russian tradition of knocking 3 times before opening the door. Finally, the newcomers are greeted by their new teammates, American Gordon, Russian cosmonaut Nika, and brothers Nikolai and Alexei. Kira is astounded by the weightlessness and must adjust to this new way of life. Despite their language and cultural differences, Americans and Russians get along well. Nika teaches Kira new Russian words that are commonly exchanged at the station. Gordon demonstrates how to get comfortable for the night. He sleeps in a bag, but others prefer free flight. The woman gets right to work, putting the mice she brought with her into cages. Alexei assists her and explains that they also had many mice, but they cannot live in space because there is nothing to hold on to. In the evening, the astronauts gather for a festive dinner, during which they share stories about their birthplaces and sing popular songs together. The only rule on the station is not to discuss politics. The newcomers hand out gifts from loved ones and souvenirs brought from Earth. Then Kira looks at Earth from the space station for the first time, and her colleagues explain the main effect of this view. Borders are invisible, and humanity is united and indivisible. Later, Nika assists Kira in preparing for the first night, which is the most difficult. However, the woman awakens in high spirits in the morning, which is short-lived when she notices the mice in poor condition. Disappointed, Kira looks at Earth and notices numerous flashes in the United States. She summons the others, and everyone realizes that a nuclear war has begun on the planet. Gordon orders everyone to leave the dome and closes the shutters. Communication on board the station is disrupted, but everything functions normally. Gordon then receives a written message from Houston informing him that an act of aggression between Russia and America has occurred, and he must seize control of the station by any means necessary. Later, he discusses the message with Kira and Christian, who believe the Russians received a similar order from their government. Nonetheless, people choose to wait at least a day before taking action. However, Nika reports a thrust issue. The station is too low in orbit and could fall to the Earth's surface unless the center makes system adjustments. The first tensions between the astronauts emerge as each considers their family who has been left behind. Nikolai informs the crew that the radio may not function because the antenna outside the station is broken and can only be repaired manually. Gordon ventures out into space. Nika helps him put on his spacesuit and kisses him goodbye, emphasizing that their relationship is more than just professional. Gordon sees Earth engulfed in flames and tells Kira not to let anyone near the windows. Then he starts his work. To distract her colleague from her negative thoughts, Kira inquires about Gordon's relationship with Nika. He admits that he met her here in space and shifts the conversation to Kira's personal life. She admits that she spent 7 years studying organ replacement but failed. Meanwhile, Alexei listens to their conversation before cutting the wire. While Christian investigates the cause of the communication breakdown, the Russian cosmonaut replaces the damaged wire with another that appears to be in good condition, leaving the American with no clues. Gordon, meanwhile, approaches the antenna and unhooks the overly short safety tether. He realizes the antenna is fine. Then a mechanical arm moves, endangering the astronaut's safety. It turns out that Nikolai did it without Alexei or Nika's knowledge. Gordon tries to call out to Kira, but the mechanical arm knocks him off the station and throws him into space. Nika and Kira attempt to see the astronaut through the windows before donning spacesuits and rushing to the airlock. But when they extend the rescue rope, there is no astronaut at the end. Kira wants to go out and look for Gordon, but Christian asks her not to leave him alone with the Russians. They, in turn, admit to Nika that on the day communication was lost, they were also given orders to eliminate the Americans using any means necessary. Alexei apologizes, not expecting his brother to do such a thing to Gordon. However, the latter reminds him that he is confident that the Americans would have treated them similarly. Nika begs Alexei to save Gordon and threatens to reveal everything to the Americans. She cries out of powerlessness, while Kira and Christian conclude that the Russians attacked first and Gordon is no longer alive. Furious at her comrade's treachery, Nika approaches Kira and requests her assistance. She agrees to give Kira her key in exchange for the key to the American locker. While she distracts her colleagues, Kira must sneak into the laboratory, open Locker Zero, retrieve samples of radiation sickness medicine developed by Alexei in orbit, board the Soyuz, and return to Earth. Only with the medicines will the survivors of the nuclear war be saved. Nika sneaks to the intersection of the oxygen tubes, where she is apprehended by Nikolai and Alex. They realize the woman is willing to blow up the entire station just to avenge her lover's death. Nikolai tries to persuade her to give up the idea, while Kira rushes to the laboratory. She can't find the Zero locker after Christian admits there isn't one. Kira realizes Naika deceived them, and they confront the Russians about their plans. Meanwhile, Alexei attempts to persuade Nika not to blow up the station, but she responds aggressively. Christian sneaks up behind her and hits her in the head with a cylinder, but miscalculates his strength and kills her. As the Russians come to terms with this, Christian and Kira decide to hide, hoping that communication will be restored. The man is devastated because he only wanted to neutralize Nika, not kill her. The brothers talk about the situation, and Nikolai asked Alexei to help him kill the Americans. He reminds him of their responsibility to their country and people, but Alexei refuses to participate in the murder. He laments Nika, while Nikolai, armed with a screwdriver, searches for them. Later, Alexei looks out the porthole and notices Gordon clinging to the side of the ISS. The Russian cosmonaut assists Gordon in returning to the station by using the mechanical arm. While Nikolai unsuccessfully searches for Kira, he attempts to deceive the Americans by claiming that Naika is alive and that they must gather to discuss their next steps. Gordon appears to be armed with a drill. His friends are stunned at his resurrection. The American demands to know what happened to Naika, and Alexei must inform him of her death. Enraged, Gordon locks all of his colleagues in the compartment and attacks Nikolai with the drill. The men fight until Alexei attempts to open the door. Nikolai takes Gordon's drill and wounds him, while Gordon pulls out Nikolai's screwdriver and strikes his opponent in the neck. The astronauts open the compartment and discover only 2 dead bodies floating in zero gravity, embraced. The survivors arrange the bodies according to protocol and return to their sections, attempting to make sense of what happened as the station orbits over the burning Earth. Later, Kira visits the laboratory, investigates the room, and discovers the Zero module. This indicates that Naika did not lie. She rushes to Christian's sleep capsule, where she discovers the Soyuz spacesuit used in Russian research. It appears that Christian was preparing to return to Earth alone. Meanwhile, Christian sabotages the station's life support system and attempts to frame Kira, telling Alexei about Naika's plan to have the American woman steal his research and flee. He accuses Kira of selfish motivations. When Alexei notices malfunctions, he notices an unusual tension between Kira and Christian, caused by a knife the astronaut is using to make a sandwich. But then Christian smiles and asks the Russian cosmonaut to leave them alone for a while. Alexei floats to the door, but Kira interrupts with a phrase about mutual support that Nika taught her. Alexei turns around. Then Christian admits he turned off the life support system, grabbed a knife, and attacked Kira and Alexei. A fight ensues. While Alexei is blocking the knife with his hand, Kira strangles their colleague. Nonetheless, Alexei sustains a knife wound in the hand. Kira gives him first aid, and they later work together to restore the life support system. In the laboratory, Kira notices a net in the mouse cage that keeps the animals alive, and realizes Alexei did it. Suddenly, the communication system activates, restoring the station's orbit and averting the threat of falling. Messages from their leadership arrive on the astronauts' computers, requesting confirmation that they have completed their missions to take control of the station. Instead of responding or obeying government orders, Alexei and Kira take the research findings, board the Soyuz, and fall to Earth in an uncontrolled free fall. Finally, Alexei inquires as to where they will fly, and Kira finds no response. This is where the film ends.